Right, guys. Hope you're all keeping all right. I haven't been on here for a couple of weeks. Just getting at the Rookery Festival after all the fishing the other week. Had a week off. Just had the Saturday at home. Did a few bits with the missus. And the Sunday I had some coaching with Toby. Brilliant day, in all honesty. Really good. Really took everything on board. Knew exactly what he wanted to learn, and we did a few extra bits as well. And I know he's already won another day, which is always nice. Had a few like that now. And then it was on to the Rookery Festival, the 3 day one, which I was really looking forward to. Um, it was the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The draw for the first day, and then your inner rotation was on the Wednesday night, just to avoid everyone hanging around together and yeah, for obvious reasons at the moment. And then from there on, we drew our own pegs. That the next, like the Thursday night after the match, we drew Friday's peg and so on. Um, and my peg for the first day, I was really gutted in all honesty. And I've drawn peg one on Raven, which is the newer of the lakes. It's not a new lake now, but it's the newer of them. Which is all mudline fishing and snake lake fish, like snake lake. It's like a big horseshoe. Um, and the first side is 1 to 10, and there's a few along the back. And then the second side is a bit longer. There's half a dozen more pegs down the second side. So it's a horseshoe, but not like an identical horseshoe. Yeah, and I've drawn peg one, never drawn it. Fished that lake loads of times, and it's not a peg I would have chosen by any means. The problem is with peg one, you sat literally 2 meters to your left, and you're on the corner bank. And with it all being mudlining, and it was all going to be mudlining and shallow across to any cover. Um, you're only drawing fishing from one way because you sat right in the corner, so you're never going to compete unless the wind was hacking in there and there are a load of carp sat there. You're just not going to compete with anglers that are drawing two sides worth of fishing and you've only got one. Um, so I wasn't very happy. I had Alex that runs the complex. He even messaged me that night and said it's not a good draw, which I already know. Does throw up once in a blue moon. I say if it's all right, perfect for it. But it wasn't where I wanted to be. Peg two was in next to me, which can be a fantastic peg. There's a big bed of reeds there, holds a lot of fish. A guy there who, in all fairness, doesn't do that sort of fishing very much, which might have helped me. Three wasn't in. I had Jack Gill on four, who wins as many matches as anyone down at Rookery. Matt Wiles on five, another fantastic angler. I fancied them two for first and second in the section. Six wasn't in. Martin Freeman was on seven, which is another good peg. And Jack Demant was on eight, which, in all honesty, we all thought me and Jack would be the bottom two. Because eight isn't quite as good, not a good mudline or anything. Um, So when I got there Thursday morning, I went straight round before I'd been and had my breakfast and paid. Just went and had a look. Um, it was flat calm there, like most of the lake. There were a few topping in two, no signs in one. Um, didn't look ideal. And when I've actually gone down to peg and got set up, plumbed up across, and it was 2 foot across. It was far too deep, in all honesty. Um, There's a little bed of reeds in the corner. It was a little bed of reeds, but I've set up some shallow rigs to fish there. I've still set up the mudline. I was still going to start there because I just felt that would be the best place of getting a few bites early on. Even though it was a bit deep, I was going to have to be a bit careful with the feed and whatever. There was a lovely hole at sort of 11 metres in the middle of the bank. I went round and cleared it out a bit. and that was 12 inches deep. That looked good, in all honesty. I thought that would be my best place for catching. And then I've set up a rig for fishing maggots in 3 foot on a top 5. I plumbed it up to my right. There's a little tree, not tight into the bank, just come out into 3 foot or 2.5 foot. It's a really good line on there just to throw plenty of maggots on it. Now, as we were setting up, we had 2.5 hours to set up because we were all there early the first day. The wind did start blowing down to us, and it was going to get up during the day. And it was all of a sudden, from the no fish being there, you could actually see him swimming into the peg down the middle of the lake. And all of a sudden, I started to think, yeah, I might be all right in the end. I've replumbed my top 5 rig, like my short for fishing down there in 2.5 foot, down the other way, just so it was easier to throw in the wind because it was going to be quite strong. So the match has started. I've thrown maggots there straight away. I've gone over and it was hard work holding it. The wind had got right up already. Just fishing micros and expanders, and I've caught 2 carp, one about £3 and one little stocky. And I thought, well, this is all right. And then I've caught an F1, and then from there on, I've just missed loads of bites. Foul hooked a couple, did catch another F1, but once there were a few fish there, like once a few feeds had gone in, it was just too deep. So after 20 minutes or so, I've sacked it off. I've started pinging casters into the reeds instead across, and I've gone over there and I just couldn't get a bite. I was surprised. I thought that'd be all right. So after like 35 minutes, I've just changed my match around. I thought this isn't right. I've gone down the edge in that hole, tapped just like I've done on the mud line, just with micros and expanders, and I started throwing casters like on a top 7 as far as I could throw down the middle, because the reeds didn't hold enough fish. There was only like odd strands. It wasn't enough. I've gone down the edge with micros and expanders, and the first 2 I've caught have probably gone £12, which is big fish for that lake. There are some big fish in there, but that was a real good, like one was 5, one was 7. Good start. And then I've caught a few small ones, but it started to peter out quite quickly, in all honesty. So I've come off it. I was waiting a long while for bites. I could see they were catching further up. And I've gone shallow down the middle, which I've only ever had one day where I've caught on it. I caught like £280 one day on it. One of the biggest weights to ever come off that lake. And that was all in a festival 2 or 3 years ago. It's boiling hot that day, and I caught loads of big carp down the middle. And I started to see an odd one about there, and especially when I actually went on it and was feeding that bit more regular. Like when you're fishing a long pole, you out down the side, you can't do it quite right. And I did start to catch an odd carp. Oh, I thought it was going to be F1s, first couple of F1s, but then I've caught carp. They were decent stamp fish as well. But again, it soon petered out. So I've tried my maggots down the edge, and I've had a couple there, but what didn't seem right. So big cut maggots on my original one going up my right, up into the lake. And I've had 2 or 3 on that, and that's just, but then it's died. I've topped it up a couple of times, big cup had not worked. And it was funny little bites. I think there were perch and stuff on the other one, so I've started throwing meat there instead. I needed another run, so I got some mushy meat. That's all the rage on Jay there, and I knew it'd work on there as well. Meat works well on there, so I've gone back in the 12-inch, feeding mushy meat and fishing a 6mm bit of meat. I've had another good run of big fish. This is like 3 hours in the 6-hour matches, so halfway in, and then I went back shallow and had an odd one. And I was using my clicker, and I'd got up to 35 fish halfway through. I reckon £100. It was going really well, and then the wind has turned, and it's gone straight across to the far bank. But where I was, it's missed it, and it all went flat calm. And when I was setting up, it's gone completely the opposite. I could actually see all the fish swimming out the peg. And I've not had a bite the last 3 hours on the deck. The only bites I've had is an odd one out the blue, like fishing caster shallow down the middle, and it was an odd one. I've only had 10 fish the last 3 hours. Tried it in the reeds again. I've tried everything. The edge, no more bites in the edge. I could just feel it slipping away. It was horrible. There was just no bites. And come the way in, I've had £140. Peg 2 has had £80. Jack's had 137. I've just beat him, but then Matt Wiles has been second on the lake, won the section with 180 something pound. Martin Freeman's had 150 next to him, and then Peg 8's had 160. He's caught all F1, loads of F1s. He's just monged underneath the tree opposite. Obviously, a ball of F1s there. So fourth in section, and festival over already. It was horrible situation to be in all honesty. It's a very, as far as bait goes for festivals, it's quite an expensive one to fish because you need loads of casters and maggots there. It's all live baits. So yeah, it was just a case of going for lake wins. There was a super pull for the top three each day. So it's just hoping to draw some pegs to win some money back, in all honesty now, because I knew I couldn't throw him. Such a high standard of angler there. You knew some people were gonna. It's normally 3 points, 4 points gets you the last couple in. They pay 5. So went and drew me peg for the next day. Drew 36 magpie, which is one of them pegs. Drew it and everyone said, "Oh, flyer." It's a snag pit. It's in the top bowl where all the lilies are. You go over the bridge and it's to your right. It's the only peg there, and all the pegs are on the other bank from you. And it's an interesting peg. You've got, well, it's just a snag pit. It's lilies everywhere in front of you. Just in front of you, and going off to your left for a long way, it's lilies from like 5 sections, like full bed of lilies. You can't get through it across anywhere. And then just in front of you, it widens out a little bit to lilies and goes to a top 7, and then it's lilies going that way. So it is, yeah, it's a hook and hold job. I spoke to Simon that had been on there. Very good angler. Always rated him very highly. Wins a lot of matches at Rookery. Won a few festivals and stuff over the year. And he'd actually been on it for that first day, and he'd been on it on the Open on the Saturday, and wasn't very happy about that. They put a lot of F1s in the lake, as you know I've spoke about before, and it just seems like that's where all the little fish were living. The smaller carp, he hadn't caught many bigger carp. Peg 27, which is like straight across the other side of that big lily bed from you. Simon had 140 and been last in the section. Peg 27 had won the section with 250. Then all the other weights in the bowl had all caught 200 plus. So didn't look ideal, in all honesty. I've got to peg the next day. There's definitely fish there. There's always fish there. There's so many pads to hold them. To be honest, probably the simplest match I've ever fished. It's so overgrown, the reeds down the side. I did a bit of gardening, and I could fish a top 4 down either side. So I've set up a rig for that. It was 3 foot deep, so a little 0.2 one of those stealth edges I was showing you in my box. Just going to throw maggots really heavy on a top 4 down that side. Big cups of hemp down the other side, and just throw a bit of meat over that. And then it was going to be cast the shallow pads to set 2 rigs up. I've only got my margin pole out. 2 rigs, both in 9 dibbers, 0.23 to an 0.20 hook length and an MXC size 4, 18 to 20 slick. One had a 2-inch hook length and was set at like 8 inches deep, and a real short line to the float. There's no limit, like 4 inches the line. And the other one was set just over 2 foot deep with a 3-inch hook length that I could use I could move it up and down and do what I wanted, but I thought the shallow one would be better. They come really shallow against them pads. With 27 catching, and I could get a bit nearer him by fishing top 7, like to the farther bit of lilies. I've started there. I had to catapult there because the wind was catching it a bit funny. And I've caught straight away, quite shallow to start with, and then they went a bit deeper. But I was losing quite a few where you were catapulting and you weren't getting the right angle on them. So I've come back to a top, took a section off and come back where I could throw it against like where it went from 5 to 7 joints along the side of that, and then I could pull them from the side. And in all honesty, I've just done that all day. It got better and better. Some bigger fish as well, which wasn't expecting. I've lost about 20 hook limits, but you're always going to in that peg. No matter how hard you pull, there's going to be an odd one get you in there. But with the right gear, you're getting a lot more out than you're losing. You can't help losing an odd fish in a peg like that. And it's with like the 4th hour has been ridiculous. I couldn't get in quick enough for cub, and on the shallow rig, I had to actually shallow it, cut a couple of inches off it, and fish 6 inches deep. And they were all like 3, 4, 5 pound. And then the last hour when I was thinking, this is like stupid weight. The F1s are sort of turned back up, so I've kept feeding it, gone in the edges. There were fish coming in, I could see them coming in, but I couldn't catch. I had a few on maggots, wasn't great. I had a few on meat, 3 or 4 on meat. So I started throwing casters down the edge, because it's all reeds, just throwing them into the reeds, and I've caught a few shallow down there. And then when I've gone back out, I've caught an odd one shallow there. But a lot more F1s again. It was interesting that I had to fish like the first sort of 3 hours. Once I caught a few, like dropping down to nearly 2 foot, which I thought would be terrible. Caught a few F1s like it, but carp as well, and it got me bites when everyone fishing really shallow wasn't catching particularly. I've ended with 122 fish, about 30 F1s in that, I think, and about 90 carp, which has gone £391, like a ridiculous day's fishing. Peg 27 was second in our section with 190. I won the section by £201. Won the match. There was a couple of low 300s, like a 303 and a 307, I think. So it's fished its head off. Won the match outright. So got my lake win money and the Super Bowl money. So all of a sudden the festival's paid for. So that was good. And then I went and drew my peg for the next day, and to be honest, I was a bit gutted when I drew it because it just made me realise how much that first day was costly. I was on J, I was drawn 11J, which I've never drawn it in summer. It's a fantastic peg on one of the bends, really good peg. It had won the lake the day before with 240, and yeah, the third day, to be honest, a very, very strange day's fishing for me. One of the least enjoyable days fishing I've ever had, I think. The wind caught it was really windy. The wind caught my peg really just coming across me. It wasn't particularly windy on the peg, but it was blowing your polar hoolie. I just set up to fish maggots throw maggots on a top 5 down the edge, but because you sat out, the pegs go right out. It was right behind you, in like 3 foot down by the reeds. Meat on a top 4. Mushy meat on the mud line, and then I thought caster shallow would be the one again. Starting at 11 metres, just pinging it. There's a tree comes out, not under the tree, but towards the tree, 11 metres. Then hopefully draw them back as the day went on. And I've started on the mud line with meat. And I've had 5 on it, just kindling mushy meat, but the first 2 have snapped my whole rig off. There was a snag under the water, some line or something. Had to reset up twice, which wasn't an ideal start. I couldn't see to my left. To my right, Gav Butler was fishing across. His peg missed all the wind because it was straight at him and a high bank in front of him. He's got real shallow water across, whereas mine was a bit deeper. He's just big potted all day and caught. It looked like he was catching all day. I thought it was getting absolutely battered. So I've sacked that off because it just wasn't good, because you couldn't present it quite right. A bit too deep. And the snag. Tried meat short and down the edge, no bites. So I've just gone fishing cast shallow at 11 metres. And I've caught some I was catching quite a lot of F1s, which you don't want to be catching on there. The carp are really big. And then I did start to catch carp, and they were coming in, but it wasn't right. So, like the wind, I did have a bit of ripple short, so I've dropped back a couple of sections, so I was in the ripple, and that was better. Caught a run of carp, but I just got, to be honest, I woke up with a banging head, or like from the day before that really took it out of me, boiling hot and like bending my body and my pole in some right angles, trying to get them out. Just took it out of me a bit. And because I knew I couldn't win in the festival, it just wasn't finding that second gear. Anyone that's seen me fish will know when I start catching, it's beast mode. Everyone jokes to me about my beast mode because I do really get in the zone, and I just never got in that. It was very strange. Yeah, I was catching. I'd got 45 fish halfway through. I was doing really well, but I just never felt like I was getting going. Till the last 2 hours, or I was a bit lazy. I could catch them down the edge, like some F1s and small carp on the maggots, but I couldn't feed my caster line because I was right behind me doing it. So it was a bit half-hearted. So I've got just sat shallow on top 6, not. It was just ticking over. It was never great, and normally the last 2 or 3 hours goes mental, and I just kept thinking that was going to happen. I needed to catch on that meat really, and I couldn't get a bite there so I could keep throwing that. Yeah, and it just never sort of switched on until the last hour, and then it went silly. But lost 2 or 3, pulling a bit too hard. Well, not pulling too hard. I just broke kit for no reason. Lost more kit. Lost a couple of rigs and stuff that I didn't lose the day before on that snag pit, so I've no really idea why that was. And then I did catch the last 20 minutes. All of a sudden, I've caught 3 great big and short on meat, and there were a few there. And I've ended up weighing. It's my best weight off that lake, and I didn't feel I'd done any good. I weighed 260. Just won the section. Literally just. There's been either side of me have been within like. I beat Gav by £3 and I beat Mark the other side by £4. He's caught down the edge all day, like down to the next platform, which I couldn't do where I was, couldn't see it. They've got some big fish. Tom Edwards won the lake and the festival. He broke the record on the lake on the day, 3:13. And in all honesty, I honestly feel I could have caught a lot more than that if I'd have just got going. It was horrible. I've never been in a position. We've just gone into the last day of a festival and thought, I'm fishing for nothing here, not achieving anything. So it was a bit of a strange day in all honesty, but ended with 6 points. I ended up 7th in the festival in the end. So another £10 the first day would have seen me 3rd in the festival. Another £20 the first day would have seen me win the festival on weight. Tom, who's won it, he's had a massive weight, £797, and I've had 794. And then I think like £600 was next. We've had cracking fishing in all honesty, but yeah, just never got going. Bit frustrating, like I say, the first day. The next 2 days it's been exactly the same. Pegs 1 and 2 have been bottom 2 all week. Like John Wincup drew my peg the last day and actually went to sleep for an hour because he couldn't get a bite. No one's had like £100 off it the other days. It's been, well, it's just been terrible. So was writing on the wall. Do always look back at it. Shouldn't have fished over, even though I caught there on the first day. I should have just gone straight down that edge, which would have been better. Yeah, would have been better. Could have got a bit of a little run there. Shouldn't have wasted time fishing shallow over. Should have done it in the middle, but it doesn't normally work. It's ifs and buts. But yeah, maybe could have caught another £20. So who knows? But I can't complain. I've had three good, or 2 really good days. Following day, I went to the Glebe Golden Reel. Drew 64 on uglies. One off the boards. The wind going down there, thought it'd be really good. I was end peg on the day, and end pegs are good. really, now this was a frustrating day. Yeah, I had 3 foot down the edge. I literally set up to fish hard pellets down the edge, hard pellets on the top 5, and then feed casters at 13 metres, and that was it. Did set up a rig for underneath it as well, for fishing worms. Started short, and the bottom has just been full of, there was a big tree next to me, and the bottom has just been full of twigs and stuff. I've caught 2 or 3, including one like £15 early on, but I've lost 4 or 5. You just couldn't. I don't think they could see your bait. It was just, and they weren't feeding. It was a bit rubbish, really. I was getting bites when people weren't, and just couldn't. They didn't want to feed. So I've gone down the edge, caught one straight away, and then it's been the same down there. Every fish you got was foul. Looked, it was all over the place, the bottom, and these reeds and all undercut next to them. They're just moping about there, these big fish, not feeding. Tried ground bait and corn down the other side in the same depth, never had a bite there. It was just weird. Had a run the middle hour shallow, but they were like 3 and 4 pounders. In uglies, they're great big uns, but it didn't last very long. I had a couple of little ones on worms underneath, and then I've gone down the edge again. It's been the same. With an hour, just over an hour to go, I've just put 4, took me banded hook length off, put a big hook on me short pellet rig, put 4 big cups of casters in. Didn't think that'd be any good. And with 40 minutes to go, all of a sudden the pegs completely changed. Like the edge, every bite I've had down there has been in the mouth, all great big ones. And I've had 3 great big ones. One was £20 on worms over my casters short. It just shows they were there and they just didn't want to feed. When they were, I've done nothing different like down the edge, and everyone's been in the mouth. Had £70 the last hour, I think. Weighed £135. The lake's been terrible. They just really shut off. It's only been one other angler away in my section, like our side of the lake. He's had £60. I've had 135. Won the section, so got some money back. But 2 Andy Kinder on it with 220. Well done, mate. I just thought, if only they'd have fed an hour earlier, I'd have had that. But like actually opened their mouths and not just been sat there. But they weren't. So yeah. So won the section easy. Can't really complain. Had a day's fishing. Now this weekend, not fishing Saturday. Got a family barbecue. Sunday is the final round of the commercial champs at Barston. Seems to be a lot skimmer fishing at the moment. The carp aren't really having it, and odd pegs, but so I'm quite looking forward to that. Just getting my head down on the skimmers unless I draw an absolute carp bunghole. Next week, I've had a day's filming this week for DS Floats. We've done a guide to float fish yesterday. Done a few method things as well. So that'll be up next few weeks. Keep your eye out for that. This week I'm out filming again with Matrix on Tuesday. Sitting on Peg 36 Magpie Rookery doing snag fishing. Hopefully there'll be something for you to learn there. Yeah, it will be a good video. This it's not just pulling their heads off. There's techniques and stuff to it. I'll go into it on the video. I'm not going to go into it now. So keep your eye out for that one as well. Wednesday, I'm going to go and do the 10 grand match at Hayfield. Got to book a ticket in a minute actually while I'm thinking about it. And then next Saturday and Sunday bank holiday weekend, there's another festival at Rookery, just a 2-day one. Just Jay and Magpie. So me and the wife are fishing that. So can't draw Raven 1 this time. So fingers crossed we have a better couple of days. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I'll start getting some tips videos. Let me know what you want done. Now we're all festivaled over. I'm going to have a night on the prep tonight because the missus is doing something. So, yep, got some free time to do that. My kit definitely needs topping up. And I will catch you again soon. Cheers, guys.